Okay, so imagine this. A car crashed backward into an abandoned house on a remote road. The driver, a 17-year-old girl, is just gone. That's where the mystery of Brianna Maitland begins. It's a story that for 2 decades has been full of twists, heartbreak, and a recent breakthrough that might, just might, finally lead to an answer.
You know, the story of Brianna's disappearance doesn't actually start with her. It starts with that strange discovery. That's what launched this 2-decade-long mystery. This is where the trail begins, and for so long, where it went completely cold.
So, picture this. A quiet, lonely road in Richford, Vermont, at a place locals call the Old Dutch Burn House. It's the kind of remote spot where headlights in the dark are a real event, and anything out of the ordinary is gonna stand out immediately.
A state trooper is out on patrol and stumbles upon this really peculiar scene. There's a car, and it's not just pulled over, it's crashed in reverse right into the building. Inside, there are personal items scattered about, like uncashed paychecks and a water bottle. It kind of looked like an accident, but it just felt wrong. So where was she? The car is there, but Brianna Maitland has vanished. It's the one question that has haunted her family and investigators for more than 2 decades now.
To even begin to understand what might have happened, we really need to understand who Brianna was. You know, she wasn't just a name on a missing persons poster. She was a young woman at a really complicated crossroads in her life. Brianna was right in that pivotal moment between being a kid and becoming an adult. She had recently moved out of her family's farmhouse, trading that rural life for a little more independence and time with friends, really trying to forge her own path.
And her life was this mix of strength, transition, and some very recent turmoil. She was a trained martial artist. She could definitely handle herself. But she was also dealing with the fallout from a physical assault just weeks before she disappeared, and she was making these big life changes, like getting her GED. It's a much more complex picture than you might expect from a typical teenager.
All right, now let's try to reconstruct the last day anyone actually saw Brianna. This timeline is our clearest, but honestly our most frustrating look at her final known movements.
So her days started off with a huge achievement. She passed her GED exam and was out celebrating with her mom. But then you look at this timeline. By the afternoon, something happened that left her visibly shaken and agitated. She leaves a simple note for her roommate, and by 11:20 p.m., she clocks out of her job at the Black Lantern Inn and just drives off alone into the night, never to be seen again.
And this is one of those details that just sticks with you. This unexplained moment from her last day. While she was out with her mother, Kelly, Brianna saw something or someone outside a store that deeply upset her, but she never said what it was. It's a crucial but completely mysterious detail from her final hours.
So, with Brianna missing, the focus snaps right back to that bizarre scene at the Dutch Burn House and the really confusing collection of clues, sightings, and allegations that came next.
And this is just brutal. A series of unfortunate circumstances led to a critical delay. Her roommate was away, her parents thought she was with friends, and the police, they simply had the car towed. Precious days were lost before anyone even realized she was gone, and these were days when the trail was growing colder by the hour.
In the hours right after Brianna left work, multiple people actually saw her car. But just look at these accounts. They offer such a confusing and incomplete picture. Headlights on, a turn signal flashing, even a sighting of a mystery man. None of it adds up to a clear story of what happened.
And just think about what she left behind. Her paychecks, her glasses, her medication. These aren't things you just leave behind if you're planning on being gone for long. It really suggests that whatever happened to her, it happened suddenly.
As police started digging deeper, the case took a really dark turn. Friends revealed that Brianna was acquainted with a couple of known drug dealers from New York who were operating in the area. All of a sudden, this wasn't just a missing person case. It opened up this dangerous line of inquiry, pointing towards a much more sinister explanation. And then, this chilling signed affidavit surfaced. It provided this graphic and horrific theory of foul play. It claimed she was killed over a drug debt and disposed of in a pretty gruesome manner. But as terrifying as it sounds, police could never actually corroborate its claims, leaving it as just another disturbing but unproven piece of the puzzle.
So years have passed, leads have been exhausted, but the search for answers, it continues, with new technology and a renewed focus on finally finding the truth for Brianna's family.
Over the years, the investigation went down so many different paths. Was it a random act of violence by a notorious killer like Israel Keys? The FBI said no. Was that her on casino footage, maybe having started a new life? The woman was never identified.
Each lead was this little flicker of hope for her family that eventually and painfully just faded away.
Then, after 18 long years of waiting, a major development, a potential breakthrough that completely changed the entire landscape of the investigation.
And this is where modern forensic science just breathes new life into this cold case. DNA found on an item near the car was finally matched to one of 11 individuals they'd previously tested. It was a stunning breakthrough. For the first time in 18 years, police had a specific person of interest.
This number represents the current urgent push for a final answer. It's a signal that law enforcement is closer than ever, but they're missing that one last piece of the puzzle.
The FBI is now offering a significant reward, and law enforcement is being very clear this is not a cold case. They're calling it an active, unsolved investigation, and they believe that one key tip, one person finally deciding to talk, is all it would take to finally bring Brianna home. And so we're left with this ultimate, frustrating question. They have a DNA profile, they have a person of interest, but they still don't have Brianna. It's a paradox that leaves a family, a community, and investigators still searching for the truth of what happened on that lonely Vermont road so many years ago.